entrepreneurial public speaker with a message of hope and encouragement to anyone who has felt beat down by circumstances in life. He is the author of the book, Live a More Excellent Life. In corporate America, Loren has spoken to everyone from newly hired sales reps to senior executives, and he has led planning meetings, trained new sales reps, provided market analysis, created new sales channels, and developed innovative advertising vehicles. Loren has also spoken into the development of marketplace church concept. So please welcome Loren Norris.
I was about 5 years old, and I remember peeking out from under the Christmas tree as I was hiding behind it eating all the candy canes. My grandma didn't have enough sense to put them all on the front so she could see them, and so they went all the way around, and I would sneak behind the Christmas tree and pull the candy canes off and eat them. When she caught me, she made me sit on a stool in the middle of the room and peel the candy canes. You know how hard it is to peel a candy cane? And all plastic around that curve is near impossible. And she would make me peel the candy canes and feed them to all the other kids, and I couldn't eat them. That same Christmas was my first Christmas with my stepdad, and we drove home from Brownwood, Texas. Anybody know where Brownwood, Texas is? To Ames, Iowa. That's like 7 miles more than eternity. Okay, it's a long trip. So we get home, it's probably 4 o'clock in the morning. Here I am at 5 years old, I have this box that's probably 3 feet, 4 feet long, probably weighed 9,000 pounds, well, at least 12 pounds. And in this box was my grandmother's Christmas present to my mother. And if you remember back to the days of the S&H green stamps, that may be a little way back for some of you, they had these dishes that looked like a picnic blanket. They were deep, pretty little red with the little checkered patterns in the middle. And all of these dishes, the plates and the saucers and the cups, and they all matched. And that's what I had in my hand, and I was carrying it in the door, and I tripped over the door jamb, and I fell face first on top of that box. I broke everything in it. There wasn't one teacup left with a handle on it. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried, not because I was hurt, but because I broke my mother's Christmas present. Well, my stepdad, being a former military guy, was pretty strict about the way we behaved, snatched me up off the ground by my arm, held me in front of his face, and he yelled to me, "Take your pants down and meet me downstairs, and I'm going to give you something to cry for." When the leather belt broke and the buckle flew across the room, he quit. I had bruises from my ankles to the back of my head. Over the next 5 to 6 years, it would be everything from that to throwing combat boots at me to knock me off my feet. That was his form of discipline. Spanked me with rebar in the backyard. Kicked me in the tailbone with the steel-toe boots until he cracked my tailbone. He died when I was 10. I found my real dad when I was 15. And I'll give you an idea of what my real dad's relationship is like with me right now. About 3 months ago, he had bypass surgery, quintuple bypass surgery. I found out about it on Facebook. How many of you know who I am? Almost no one. What's sadder than that, though, is that I spent most of my life not knowing either. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but our identity doesn't come from ourselves as much as it comes from our Father. And when you have the kind of background that I had, not knowing who your Father is, you have a real challenge with knowing who you are. You know what I mean by that? So when I started raising kids of my own, I still had that question, who am I supposed to be when I grow up? So I remember I had a really stressful job. I was working in Austin, Texas, 5 blocks from the state capitol. In the same building that I was in was then Governor George Bush, then Lieutenant Governor, soon to be even more, Rick Perry, Judge Abbott, who's now the Supreme Court, or one of the state Supreme Court justices, several other very high-profile political leaders. And running a print shop, they were all my clients. They would come in and get their business cards and letterheads and new campaign tools, and they would walk in the door, and these people that walked in their team would go, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who I work for?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've seen you several times. You're like George Bush, right? Rick Perry. Wait, I'll get it in a minute." But the stress was just incredible. I would come home many times at night just exhausted I wanted to hide. And so I snuck in the door this one night, and I took my pager off and threw it on the buffet and threw my keys behind it. I looked and no one saw me, and I snuck around the corner into my man cave. It was nice and quiet. I could check my email, read a book, put my feet up, and just relax a little bit. And as I sat there, I hear this knock at the door. Actually, it's not a knock, it's the door flies open, and in rushes my 2-year-old. And she looked about like that. She jumps in my lap, and in a matter of seconds, she has cleared everything off my desk, completely rebooted my computer. And so I picked her up and I set her on the floor. And I go back to what I'm doing. And I look, and she has made her way across the room and removed every book from the bookshelf. They're all over the place. Well, after the 15th, no, that's Daddy's, and please stop. I found the words that worked. Get out! She stood up from where she was at the bookshelf. Eyes wide, she walked to the door. On her tiptoes, she grabbed the doorknob, and she took steps back, and as she did, these 2 little crocodile tears started to stream down her face. She asked me one question. Daddy's girl. And it hit me right then that I was duplicating the same thing. I was putting her in that place of wondering, who am I? Am I yours? Or has something that I've done caused me to not be yours? She wasn't sure right then whether she was still Daddy's girl or not. See, I've struggled most of my life trying to figure out, who am I? What is my identity? What's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Recently, I found a better relationship with one of my mentors who's been a mentor only through books for many, many years. And recently, I started not only reading, but becoming a part of his team. And John Maxwell said something that really changed the who that I am deep inside. He said, when you find what it is that you're made for, do it with everything that you've got. Don't worry about the weaknesses. Put your strengths in play to the utmost of your ability. And you'll see God work through that. I want to share something with you really quick. This is a poem. This is my latest book. I don't think this one was out the last time Hannah and I met. This one is called God at Work. This is a poem that saved my life. And I mean that quite literally. If you want to hear the story later, I'll tell you about it. But it's called Forgiven. It was written in September 1993. My heart leapt as I closed my eyes. My breath escaped me and I began to cry. I felt the tears of pain inside my heart and I repented that I'd missed the mark. I felt once more like a failure. I was right where I'd been before, and I had the fear of hurting God, but not enough to make me stop. And then as if from nowhere, I heard him speak. Was it real? Was he talking to me? His voice was soft but firm, not like anything I'd ever heard. He said, I love you, child, because you're mine, not for what you've done. You're always loved in my eyes because I love my son. He bled for you before he died, and so I've forgiven all your sins. And I thanked him as I realized that I was made whole in him. I just want to challenge you to walk in the strengths of what you were made for, who you were made to be, and look for that potential in those around you, especially your loved ones, those that work with you, those that live around you. You have a chance to change their lives as well. Very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Russ Follett. I'm the Director of Small Groups here at City Life Center. I just wanted to talk to you about a couple things in your program today, a couple items I'd like to draw your attention to. First of all is the TAM response card that you'll find in there. If you could please fill this out, or if you'd like to attach a business card with that with the paper clips on your table, you can do either or, but we like to use those to keep track of you guys and see how you're doing, so we can check up on you. Please check the appropriate line, either Marketplace Church, obviously, because it's Marketplace Church. This